Istoryahan ba?
Well, latest developments sa Congress. The hearings continued. In Garbin says there's a good chance it might happen in March.
In March, yeah, that's
There's
right.
a good chance that the amendments to the economic provisions of the Constitution will be approved. So
Mm,
that gives
yeah.
us hope.
Okay.
So that's nice. Tapos, talk about your new favorite Netflix series.
Oh yeah. Let's talk about that. Let's talk also about amend. Let's talk about amend, and let's also talk about samurai. The samurai one. So
Mhm.
yeah, it's okay. Well, we'll wing it anyway. So
Let me send you the link of
yeah.
our
Send me the link.
streaming tonight.
All right. Send it here in the private chat.
Yep, that's what I'm gonna do. How's work like?
Well, I was on leave today. I was on leave today because my wife and I were on leave today because our son's birthday. So we took our son out to this kids kids play place, something like yung mga Kidzania, something like that kind of thing. So Kidstopia. But we brought him there. So yeah.
Nice.
All right.
Bonding family time pala kanina.
Yeah, man. Yep.
Sabi ni
Okay.
Adrian, ready na daw yung kanyang chippy. Ready na rin daw niya yung chippy niya.
TP Nada rin TP parts. Okay.
Di pa feel din ang ibang diha. So, lago di ay mo chippy.
All right. Of course, we can always talk also about the legacy of the what do you call this EDSA Day. So Jim Paredes.
Yeah, definitely. We should talk about that.
So yeah, let's put that as among things we'll talk about. Right. Okay, I think we can start. Well, let's get everybody to please share and share and share. We need to start with like 50 people at least. So we've only got 27. We need 50 people.
Yeah.
And you know how it is,
Share
guys.
away.
We need a lot of people.
There.
Right? We need.
Okay. Hang on. Let me see. So let me see. Okay. And okay. All right.
Okay.
Good.
I guess we can start. Yeah. Very soft on music, by.
Hey, how are you? Good evening to Historia. Good evening. Good evening. Welcome to Istoryang Futbolero. My name's Ron Poblete, and I'm with Mr. Orion Perez DumDum of Correct Movement on a Monday. We just switched up the schedule for today kasi na-miss namin si Orion last Friday. Medyo busy.
May despedida kami ng isang kaibigan namin who's leaving for Canada. We have a friend. This friend has actually been. He's actually okay. You know what? I think that the cat is out of the bag anyway. He's actually the guy who created the Duterte anime thing.
Oh, yeah?
Yeah. So the Duterte anime thing was created by one person. He wants to keep it a secret, so I'll just say, well, his name is Pau, and he's the guy who did that. He's from Davao. He's from Davao, and he did it.
Ah,
He was pretending that it was made by a group of anime enthusiasts in Davao to sort of like protect himself. But basically, you know what? It became a huge success, and I think he deserves um, some of the the credit because he was the guy who did that. He created it from here in Singapore, from his own basically his own software. Very talented guy. But he's now leaving Singapore to go to. He and his wife are leaving for Canada. So yeah, they're basically adding up to the number of people who are really like kind of giving up on being Filipino because the reforms are taking too long. Because let's be honest, the reforms should have happened long ago, and it's not the fault of the Duterte administration. It's really just it's the fault of the Filipino people that we have allowed ourselves to be fooled by the communists and the oligarchs. So you know, ordinary people who don't come from the rich families, we're forced to be OFWs, and eventually we end up becoming migrants elsewhere. And I actually see myself. There's a possibility I'll become one of those as well. Same with my other friends. So we
I
need the
hope.
reforms to happen.
Well, I hope we still have enough time to make sure that this doesn't happen to you, Orion. We need more people like you to come back to the Philippines because it's a real phenomenon in the Philippines. What we call a brain drain.
I know,
So
I
many
know.
of our talented Filipinos are working abroad, and
Mm.
they don't even consider coming back because of the fact that there's nothing here
Yeah, the
to.
economic opportunities are not there, and there's a
There's no
point.
opportunity. There's
There's a
no.
point at which we have our limits. So yeah, there's a part like a lot of us basically we do our part spreading the word about the reforms and all that, but then we can't wait forever. So let's make this happen now, guys. Honestly, gawin na natin to. Ato na ni buhaton karon di na hulat pa niya magpa makuanda ka ng binuangan lang tas mga komunista. I mean, I've had it with those freaking stupid fucking goddamn communists who dominate the fucking airwaves. Always like that fucking idiot named Monsod. He's always spreading fake news, telling people that the FDI is not really that important. It's not the main thing. Fucking idiot doesn't know that. Yes, it may be true that if you look at the GDP per capita, GDP of all these different countries that are now very very successful, including Singapore. Yeah, it may be that FDI is not like a huge, overwhelming, like 90% of their economy. Of course not, because when FDI comes in, let's say there's FDI that comes in, there will be local businesses that sprout to service the FDI. So the end result is that FDI that comes in probably becomes 30%, and there's small other businesses that sprout that are owned by locals, and then when you look at it, it's like 70% it's locals, but it's 30% FDI. But you take out that FDI, take that out. The manufacturing company, the big company that's creating the jobs, you take that out. All those other businesses, the restaurants, the malls, they die. And that's what the fuckers like that stupid putangina Monso, that fucking idiot needs to go. That fucking idiot needs to go. That putangina needs to go. He's the fucking reason why my friend is leaving. So many people have left because that fucking idiot keeps on making people believe all the bullshit in the world to go against constitutional reform. That fucking idiot needs to go. He and his
Just
fucking wife need to go. Those fucking idiots, the fucking monsods, need to fucking go. Someone needs to fucking put a goddamn bullet in their fucking heads. Those fucking monsods need to go. Fuck
bro,
you,
just
monsods.
just when I
Putang
just when I thought it's gonna be a good night because you're in a
chippy.
good mood because of your chippy. I guess the chippy's not enough, Orion, in this case.
Not enough, man. I'm fucking riled up because those fucking idiots. Those fucking monsods need to fucking go. Fucking go to their goddamn house. People in Manila, fucking go to Dasmariñas and fucking flood their fucking house. fucking goddamn, those shits need to go.
All right,
Fucking
man.
munsod.
Uh,
Putang ina nyo, munsod. Putang ina nyo.
Anwar says Orion to chillax, boss.
Yeah, man.
All right. Well, today I had this. I don't know. Well, Orion, you've been away for a long time now, but I'm sure you've learned about recent developments about our infrastructure. We have they just recently finished the stage three of the Skyway,
Mm-hmm.
and I had to go to Congress today to meet up with a few people, and I just would like to report. I wasn't able to video it, take a video of my trip from Las Piñas all the way to Batasan Hills. Guess what? It took usually it's like 2.5 hours to get there from where I live.
Mm-hmm.
Now it only takes an hour to
Mm.
get to Batasan Hills. That is amazing. So I just wanted to tell everybody that if ever you have friends who live in that part of the city or part of Metro Manila, it's faster taking Skyway, and it's still for free. You only need to pay the 168 pesos or say 164 pesos toll if you take the ramp towards Skyway coming from South Superhighway, and you're on your way. You don't have to pay for anything when you hit the new the stage three of Skyway. So for now, it's still for free. So if you need to go to Congress, it's a lot faster right now. Even coming back home, Orion, it took me like less than an hour to get back to the south. So kudos to the people from who built Skyway, of course, from Ang and the government for untangling the mess that the previous administration left behind. Starting with, of course, the right of way, which is very important in building all these infrastructure, and that was done relatively very fast during the administration of PRRD. So kudos to those guys, and it was such a pleasure to be in Batasan Hills today. I was able to check out Congress and Orion. Uh, I just we were discussing about changes and how it takes so long for Filipinos, to adapt to changes, or and even our leaders, it takes time for them to really catch up to what is needed to be done for our country to progress even further. And this is a very small example, though. Once you get to Congress, you actually need to take a I don't know if you know this, Orion, but it's a prerequisite to take an antigen test at the entrance of any building in Congress now. And somebody told me that it took so long for people to get in because they would all fall in line in a basketball court, I think, so that they can take the antigen test. So it would take like forever before they can enter the premises. And then they realized that people, they got complaints and they had to think of ways to make that faster. And now every entrance of Congress has like medical staff to take the antigen test for people who enter these premises. So the reason why I'm pointing this out, right, is that sometimes people are people in government, when they come up with ways to improve things, it just takes a little bit of um, practicality or common sense to make sure things are more efficient. And this has been a long-standing issue of ours. Uh, Amending the Constitution shouldn't have taken 33 years or 35 years to figure out that this thing is not working at
I
all.
think the reason for that is pretty obvious. The biggest reason for that is because so many Filipinos are barriotic. A lot of Filipinos are very insular minded, like,
Mm.
know nothing about what's going on outside of the world, outside of the country. If ever they do know anything, it's only about basketball, the NBA, the USA. That's all they know. Hollywood. That's it. but they don't know anything about what's going on outside. And that's the very thing that Jose Rizal was so angry about. If you really truly read about what Rizal really stood for, he wasn't against the Spanish, and that was not what it was. Rizal wanted Filipinos to stop being barriotic. He wanted Filipinos to stop being insular minded and superstitious and backward and primitive. He wanted
Mm,
Filipinos to become at par with Europeans, because he saw a nice, basically when he went to Europe, he saw a well-run set of societies. He liked what he saw when he was in Madrid. He saw the egalitarianism there. He saw that there was none of that racism that people thought that there was, because he saw his own friend Juan Luna
mm.
getting, and the other guy for Resurrection, I forgot who's the other guy. There are two Filipino painters who were his friends who got top prizes for their artwork. And so,
Right.
like, he saw, look, guys, we're like, we're recognized here in Europe, and they've got a very a well-run society. It's a very intellectual society. We need the same thing in the Philippines. And anybody who properly reads Noli Me Tangere and even El Filibusterismo, especially if you read Noli Me Tangere, it's not about going against the Spaniards. It's going against the lousy Pinoy backward primitive attitude and mentality. That's what he was totally against. If you read chapter 14, especially the one about Piloso Potasio,
Mm.
that's really Rizal ranting and raving about how he fucking hates Pinoy backwardness. That's what he was talking about in his novel. But the problem is the barriotic Pinoy educational system that was set up by the barriotic Pinoys. What did they do? They, there's an echo. Sorry, could you sort of turn that echo off? Um. So anyway, what happened was, in our Pinoy class, they used. They didn't. Of course, they did. We were not taught the original, say, Spanish version. We were not taught in English. Also, we were taught in Tagalog. So it was in Pinoy class, right? And in the Tagalog version of Noli Me Tangere and even El Filibusterismo, they used too much talasalitaan, right? Obviously, you know what talasalitaan is, right? So hard words. They used so many hard words. And the problem is, because you're an ordinary student, and then, you even Tagalogs don't know these words, right? They're just so fucking hard to understand. You need to ask the teacher. The teacher needs to explain what's this text all about. So the teacher will offer his or her interpretation, and the interpretation is based on what the department or the Ministry of Education before the Department of Education before would basically say that this is what you should say. Okay, it was against the Spaniards, against the blah blah blah, but they never properly explained that Rizal was actually against backward primitive Pinoy barrioticness. That's what he was really angry about. That's
You
what
know,
Rizal was really fighting against. And people were always just trying to say, oh, kalaban niya ang mga Kastila, ayaw niya ng mga Kastila. That's what they were trying to say. But that's not what he was angry about. And this is, the thing about Rizal is, it's because he and his friends, they all had this exposure to the outside world, that they wanted the Philippines to have the same kind of educational system and the kind of scientific and logical understanding of things. That's what
you're
why.
actually right. I think sometimes people forget the reason why we hold Jose Rizal to a high regard is because of the fact that he represents something that is missing about Philippine society, and the reason why he was shot, he sort of like represented something that would have, if met in its entirety, it would have set our people free from the cudgels of control from the Spaniards, our colonial masters. If the general population were educated enough to understand what we were going through or what we needed to do, and sometimes we forget about the whole message of what Rizal represents. Basically, it's really about Filipinos need to uh, increase the level of education for them to be able to improve our country
To
as a
be
whole.
honest, to be honest, actually, it's like he wasn't even against so-called the Spanish colonial rule per se. He actually wanted to just upgrade the way things were being, the educational system, rather than being an extremely Catholic based only approach, but one that was more secular and enlightenment based. So upgrade it to what they were already having in Europe. Because what was happening is in the Philippines, the mentality was like 200 years old. It was like based on the older way of doing things. Like back in Spain and Latin American colonies, it was based on that old way of doing things. Whereas in the 1880s and 1890s, they were already, quite advanced, already more secular minded, a lot more, how do you say this, enlightenment based. They were moving towards that era of modernity, and Rizal saw that and he said, I want this to be in the Philippines. And he actually wanted Spanish civilian authority to be strengthened as compared to what was happening before. It was the religious, the friars, basically friar based. So the friars, what would happen is, whatever the textbooks were talking about, all this scientific stuff, they would sort of downplay that. They would sort of emphasize more the spiritual and dogmatic way of doing things, and that was the problem. He
Mm.
wanted something that was more akin to what they had in France and in Spain and in Germany. So basically, a more, yeah, in late 1800s way of doing things. That's what he wanted, and so he just wanted to upgrade the Philippine system, and that's the reason why one move if we move forward in 1987, 1986, 1987, why we ended up with a fucked up lousy constitution. A lot of Pinoys were still bariotic. Our own, the commissioners in that CONCOM that created the 1986, the 1987 constitution, they were bariotic. Look at that 60-40 thing. You know, the people who created the Malolos constitution, on the other hand, were much more advanced in terms of their mentality, because the people who went there were many of them were the guys who went along together with Rizal in Europe. So they had this more open-minded, they allowed, basically the Malolos constitution said, if you are a foreigner and as long as you follow the rules, you can invest, you can even own land and property in the Philippines as long as you contribute to the Philippines. That's how they put up that text. But then when you move forward to 1987, what do we end up with? A very, very bariotic, primitive minded, insular minded, very, very small minded text.
I have a
Really,
question though,
backward,
Orion.
talaga, backward.
I heard people describe how the framers of the Constitution and how they came up with all these provisions that sort of like negate foreign ownership and prioritizing Filipino businessmen, coming from the idea that because back in the 80s, it's actually like, the communist movement was actually in full swing, right? Like
Yeah, yeah.
people like uh, Jose Maria Sison.
Another bariotic fucking son of a bitch, who's a friend
So
of Monsod, by the way.
yeah, they're saying that the ideology s- permeated in the way people thought about coming up
Exactly.
with the constitution. They think that we should start building on our resources. Pretty much, it's how China started, right? Like everything should be state owned. Um,
No, that's not how China succeeded. China did not succeed like that. China failed because of that
yeah, exactly,
state-owned
exactly.
bullshit.
But the communist point of view comes from that very small comes from that idea that everything should start that they should nationalize everything, that for people to get an equal share of all the resources, it should start local, and foreign investment shouldn't be a priority. And
Not just
that
a priority. Should not exist. That's what they
should
were
not
thinking.
exist.
Should not
And
exist. That's what
exactly.
Thomas Edison believes in.
And I really think that there is a communist influence over what transpired in 1986.
And by the way,
Um,
so if you recall, Ron, in several of our Futbolero sessions, I ranted and I like went berserk about
mm,
UP, about the fucking Universidad de Filipinas, the University of the Philippines, the fucking putangina school that breeds so many fucking goddamn communists, you know? So that fucking institution, huh? That bred fuckwits like that Monsod and that Joma season and all those fuckwits who keep on destroying the country, they were able to create a huge cadre of idiots that became the basis of the stupid constitutions we have, you know? So I mean, even they became so dominant in their narrative that even people who are not communists also subscribe to the same stupid bariotic primitive idea that we should not have foreign investors. Ay, dapat wala yan. Dapat may yung 60-40 nga. Dapat ano nga. Dapat nga walang 60-40. Dapat 100% Filipino lang eh. That's what they believe. And
pero
there's
hindi
so
kaya,
many of them.
pero hindi kaya Orion, yung nangyari noong 1986 kasi coming from martial law, and obviously for the last decade or so before people power, medyo very prominent yung feudal system natin eh. Warlords ruled the country, and and so the constitution is actually a reaction to what was the previous situation we were in, or circumstances that
I'll correct you on that. The Constitution actually made feudalism worse. It made it worse.
no, but
Why?
the idea, probably the idea behind it was, you know what, we've been controlled by a feudal system, and the constitution should reflect more of a
I'll correct you again. I'm gonna talk about the facts. Okay, the majority of the people who form the CPP-NPA are themselves landowners. They're feudal lords, like that fuckwit. Luis Halandoni? He comes from a fucking Ascendero family. Monsod, fucker, also comes from another Ascendero family, and he's also aligned with the Lopezes. Hey, fuck you, Monsod! I'm gonna fucking beat your brains out, son of a bitch. And that fuckwit, what's his name? Joma Sison, that son of a bitch, is also a landowner. I mean, all these fuckers are all landowners, right? And actually, they're not against feudalism. They want feudalism. That's what they want. That's what they really want. Actually, it can be argued that these fucking idiots don't even really want communism anyway. They just want the same old feudal system that they really love to have because that's what their families are all about.
Yeah, it's becoming more apparent now, Ryan, that that is actually the case, because whatever communist ideals that they would like you to believe they represent is not really. It's there. It's slowly becoming very apparent that it's not really the case now, given the fact that nothing really came out of their movement, and it's quite obvious that they're just trying to prolong their control over a certain segment of society by disguising themselves as champions for the communist ideal. It's easy kasi, ang dali kasi Orion benta sa mahihirap eh. Pag komunista, ang ano kaagad, ang laban is giving everybody equal share, di ba?
Parang ano
Talagang
daw, Robin Hood daw.
Robin
Robin
Hood,
Hood daw.
parang
Pero hindi
lahat,
eh.
yung mga
Hindi naman eh.
mahihirap, lahat, yung
Hindi naman
kanilang
talaga si Robin Hood eh. Ang nangyayari, ang mga Pinoy communists, yun ang pinaka bobo sa lahat ng mga komunista. Kasi buti pa nga yung mga, kunyari, yung mga Bolshevik nga eh. The Bolsheviks, when they started when they took over Russia, just a few years after World War One, no, they took over, and they took over during the time that World War One is still there, and in the 1920s, 1919, 1920, they realized what they didn't know how to run an economy, and that they could not shift towards the communism or the socialism that they wanted to, because they had not yet set up enough industries. So you need to set up in industries. You need to industrialize your society before you can go into communism. Okay, because although that's according to Marx, you cannot go straight from feudalism to
Yeah.
communism. No, you need to go first through industrialization, through a capitalist, system. You need to go through that first, but they did not have that at all. So, from the point of view of the Bolshevik theoreticians, they realized, you know what, we can't. Our economy is not running the way it should. We're too much agriculture based. We don't have any industries. So they said in 1920, let's set up first a capitalist system. So they came up with the Bolshevik new new economic policy. Okay, the new economic policy that is different from the Malaysia new economic policy, by the way, of Mahathir. What they had in Russia was they would allow private enterprise, private farms, okay, private banking, and even allow foreign investors. That they would just be coordinated by the government, but they would allow them to basically still function. So my point is, you know what, these communists in these other countries somehow still have more sense to understand that, well, something's not working, we need to fix it, we need to do something. And the same thing with Gorbachev. That's why he had this glasnost and perestroika, and that's why he said, let's adopt certain things that we're seeing being done in the West, because our system is clearly not working. You know, and then the same thing with China. That's what happened with China when Deng Xiaoping took over. He said, let's go with a capitalist system. Let's follow Singapore. Let's learn from Singapore. That's what he did. But and then you have other countries like Nepal, for example. Nepal, they realize, look, you know what? We are a multi-ethnic, multilinguistic, multicultural, multi-religious society. We cannot be a unitary system. We need a federal parliamentary system. So these countries, the communists there are bright, like the ones in Vietnam too. Look, they're using capitalism, but
Yeah.
the fucking idiots in the Pinas, the stupid, putang ina, bobo, primitive, barriotic pieces of shit, huh? I mean, fucking pieces of shit produced by UP, like that fuckwit Joma Season, that fuckwit Monson, who's a fucking communist because he set up Task Force Mapalad. That's a fucking communist bullshit thing, okay? And then his wife is also a fucking communist, putang ina. So many of these fuckwits from UP, except from the UP School of Economics, by the way, but so many of them produced by that fuckwit school, UP, huh? Well, fucking communists, they don't know shit. They keep on insisting on things that don't work. Kontra-kontra pa sila sa federal parliamentary. Federal parliamentary naman na ginagamit ng communist run, Maoist run, Nepal. Diba? Parang putang ina. All these other countries, nagkakapitalism na nga na kahit communist party sila. Pero putang ina, why is the CPP, NPA so against what works? What the fuck? What kind of... Nahihiya ako sa Filipino. Ang bobobo ng mga komunista natin.
Yeah, tama ka
Ang
naman,
bobo talaga
Orion.
nila.
Tama ka naman, Orion. Obvious na obvious rin kasi na
Putang ina.
wala talaga silang alternative to... Kasi ganito have they answered the question, what happens if they take over? What exactly are they going to do? What is their plan if they took over government? I'm sure if you ask them, they don't have anything except they're just gonna purge Philippine society. They're gonna take away all the property, resources of all the rich people in the Philippines, and they will try to redistribute that, and they think that is the only way to do it. But Russia did it before. The Soviet Union did it before. Remember that time, Orion, and it didn't work. They reverted
Didn't
to
work, yeah.
a more capitalist system. Sabi ni Obid Jason Elo, Lenin's new economic policy involved foreign expertise and capital. Sabi naman ni, thank you so much for sending that in, by the way, Obed. And sabi ni Carlo, hindi sila marunong mag-research, especially history. Maybe marunong sila mag-research, pero they sort of like they they choose what they want to believe in. If it doesn't, support their narrative, usually they don't pay attention to it. Sabi naman ng isa sa ating mga viewers from our other group, ang hirap ng nga dito sa Pinas, maraming nabobola kasi nga maraming uneducated because of poverty. Grabe ang daming i-correct na mga mali, lalo na sa education system natin. Speaking of education, Orion, I'm glad that you were able to watch the new Netflix series called Amend.
Yeah,
We
yeah.
recommended this to our viewers a few episodes ago, and I'm hoping that some of our viewers were able to catch it. And what do you think, Orion? What do you think of?
It's really good. I like the fact that it's very relevant for us because we are in a struggle for our rights as ordinary Filipinos. Unlike those fuckwits who are usually basically yung mga oligarchs who are also the leaders of the communist movement. I mean, really, they're what they do is just for their own gain. And sometimes they don't even know that what they're doing is actually destroying their own well-being. That if we actually all came up with this better system, everybody would benefit. Even them. They would actually be much richer than they are now. But they're so fucking stupid, you know? Now, so there was one thing there that was very important in Amend, and that the problem of fighting for rights is when you have people who will say, "Oh, now's not the time. Just wait, just wait."
Very familiar line
A
from
very
from
fucking
the
familiar line,
communist.
right? So you hear that all the time from these fuckwits who are anti-reform. Pinoy fuckwits who are anti-reform. You're gonna hear that all the time. No, it's not the time. I'm not against cha-cha, but now is not the time. Fuck you! Off with your fucking head! Putang ina. I really had it. I'm honestly, and I hope everybody else gets angry. We need to be angry. We can't just think, ay, okay lang yan, okay lang. Putang ina, dapat magalit tayo lahat eh. I mean, honestly, we're one of the most talented countries, if not the most talented. In fact, Singapore says that we are the most talented country. The leadership of Singapore, they say that we are the most talented country in Southeast Asia. But we are the laggard because we choose all the wrong economic policies. We just do everything wrong. But as individuals, we're talented, and they know that. Tarman Shanmugaratnam, he said that. Same with he was the deputy prime minister before, and then also Prime Minister Lee Hsien Loong. He also said that. Even Prime Minister Lee Kuan Yew, the late Prime Minister Lee Kuan Yew himself also said that Filipinos are some of the most talented people in the world, if not just in Asia. But we have a fucked up system, and we're not able to fix it. And this is what really makes me so angry. This is why I rant and I get so mad and curse the way I do, because I'm sick and tired of the situation.
Well,
Right? I'm sick and tired of it now.
sabi
Everybody
nila,
else needs to be angry.
they say, Orion, that the cream usually most of the time rises to the top, but in our case, it's always shit that rises to the top.
Yeah.
Why is that? Maybe it's the way things are set up that
We have
you
a
know.
fucked up system. That's the problem we have. We have a fucked up system. We
Um,
really have a fucked up system.
there's a question though, Orion, about Malaysia being a parliamentary system. How I know it's like a multi solution type of we should attack it in so many different angles if we are to solve this problem of ours. But when we use other countries as an example to sort of like support an argument about that that supports a parliamentary system, we still get questions about the parliamentary system not totally working in Malaysia the way it's supposed to be, because they actually can,
I'll ask a question. Does Malaysia send OFWs to the Philippines?
no, they don't, but they still have corrupt people running the show.
Yeah, but there's corruption everywhere. Even in Singapore, even in Germany, there's corruption everywhere. The problem is not whether there is corruption or there's not corruption. The question is, do you have a society that's somehow at least able to feed itself, to create enough economic opportunities for its people? The corruption will go away eventually. The more the economy improves, the corruption will go away. That's just how it works. Of course, you're always going to have corruption everywhere. Of course, Malaysia has corruption. Everywhere else has corruption. It's
Who's
just a
this?
matter of how much.
Who's
The
this prime
question
minister?
is,
Who's
yeah,
under?
so
Who's on
Najib,
trial now?
Najib had some issues.
Najib.
Yeah, fine, but still, they're a fucking rich country. How many countries can the Malaysian passport bring you to? They're actually like among number 5 or 6 in the
Hmm.
world. They are in that like fifth tier, something like they're I think equal with Ireland. I think I don't know what the stats are. That changes every year, but Malaysia is one of those countries where you hold a Malaysian passport, you can go to many different countries. Compare that with us, right? So those fuckwits who say, kasi hindi naman perfect yung sa Malaysia, ba't natin susundan? Putang ina, mas maganda pa rin yung sistema nila kaysa sa atin. Putang ina, wag kayong tatanga-tanga, punyeta kayo. Ha? Putang ina ninyo, wag kayong gagong, wag mga primitive-minded Pinoy na masyadong baryotic, ha? Putang ina, wag kayong ganyan. Kasi kahit anong sabihin natin, ang Malaysia pa rin, kahit sabihin natin may problema, mas maganda pa rin ang takbo ng kanilang bansa kaysa sa atin.
So
That's the truth. That's the truth. That's the truth. Mas maganda pa rin ang ekonomiya nila sa atin. Mas maayos pa rin ang bansa nila sa atin. Mas mababa pa rin yung taxes nila kaysa sa atin. Putang ina. Mas maganda pa rin ang bansa nila sa atin. Pumunta kayo ng putang inang KL, pumunta kayo ng Kuala Lumpur, makikita nyo na pag-iwanan na tayo.
sabi
Ganun lang
niya,
kasimple yun.
sabi ni Obed, Malaysians can go to Australia without a visa.
Yes. No need for visa. Tayo, kailangan mo pupunta.
So,
Linya ka pa. Tangina.
okay,
Yun ang
explain it
punto
to
ko
me.
eh.
Explain this to me, Orion. The reason why certain countries require that Filipinos apply for a visa is because since we come from a country that is not as affluent, there's a possibility, they know there's a possibility for Filipino citizens to stay in their country illegally.
Yes, that's exactly it. Whereas Malaysians, for example, they know that many Malaysians many Malaysians go to the UK to study, and then they come back right after. Once they're done with their degree, they come back. I mean, like they don't overstay. I mean, the point is, the richer the country and the better the economic prospects, the more respected your passport is going to be by other countries. The Philippines, unfortunately, is considered to be one of those fuck-witted countries that people say, "Fuck, I don't want to hire a Filipino. I don't want to have Filipinos in my country because they're going to just, become leeches. They're just going to overstay, blah, blah, blah." That's what happens to us because they see us as really pathetic people who are parang masyadong tayo, ang tawag dyan, yung kapit sa patalim na kasi walang trabaho sa Pilipinas eh. Whereas in Malaysia, may trabaho dun eh. Maraming trabaho sa Malaysia eh. Ang daming Pilipinong OFW na nandun sa Malaysia. Isa pa lang yun sa mga kailangan makita ng maraming Pilipino. Tingnan nyo yung Sabah. Pati nga KL, ang daming nyo narinig, nagtatagalog dun eh. Bakit ang daming nagme-maid ngayon dun sa Malaysia? Tangina, akala ko ba mas mayaman tayo dun sa kanila? Hindi eh. Napag-iwanan na tayo. Ha? Ang Malaysia is one of the countries that a lot of Filipinos go to as OFWs. And there's a problem there. It just means that they're doing a lot better than we are. So spare me this kasi sila yung kanilang parliamentary system hindi maganda kasi may corruption. Oo, may corruption naman lahat eh. Pero nahuli agad, 'di ba? Nahuli, nakita, yan. Ano nangyari? 'Di ba? Nakapreso na ngayon si Najib. 'Di ba? May ganyan ba tayo? Wala.
Walang nakukulong na yung mga big time politicians natin. Meron bang nakulong except for Laila de Lima? Meron ba tayong ibang politician na nakulong for
anyway, what I'm just saying is wag tayong nagpapadala dyan sa mga wrong rhetoric na usually again, yung mga anti-reform, mga komunista, mga oligarch, mga tanga, mga bobo, mga baryotic. Yun talaga sila. Kayang-kaya kong talunin sa putang ng debate, mga putang ng mga yan. Kaya, simple lang. Tangina, papatayin ko sila sa debate. Mga
sabi ni Carlo, Realisa, house arrest lang daw ang pinakamatinding parusa na nabigay sa ating politician na nag-commit ng corruption. wala pa talaga yung nakukulong. Baka talaga kailangan ng masampulan yung mga ating mga politician, ano? Orion.
Pero ito, balik lang tayo dun ha. So, huwag tayong nag-ano ng mga perfect scenario. Mag-compare lang tayo. Just yung normal relative comparison lang. Makikita natin, nandun, second most developed economy in Southeast Asia, ang Malaysia. They're more, okay, mas mayaman pa rin ang Brunei kaysa sa Malaysia dahil sobra, oil dependent ang Brunei, tapos konti lang yung tao. Pero mas diverse ang economy ng Malaysia. So they have food, everything. Hindi lang sila oil lang. Ang Brunei, puro oil lang yan. Ang Malaysia, ang daming manufacturing, ang daming may agriculture din sila. Marami silang mga bagay-bagay. Now, Malaysia is one of those countries that also used a lot of foreign direct investments. Talagang nung si Imran Khan, yung Prime Minister of Malaysia, Prime Minister of Pakistan, he invited Mahathir Mohamad to come to Pakistan, and they were talking about how to improve our country. And sabi ni Mahathir, foreign direct investment talaga, kasi that's what we did as well in Malaysia. We brought them in, they created jobs, and they taught our people, they trained our people on technologies that we did not have before. And eventually, those people who get trained, some of them later become businessmen also of their own, and they bring their knowledge when they come up with their own companies. So you will then later on have local companies that have the know-how. That's what a lot of the Pinoy, teka lang ha, may na naman, echo na naman. Nag-echo na naman siya. So anyway, that's what a lot of the Pinoy obstructionists don't understand. Na ang kailangan talaga is unang-una magkaroon na muna ng trabaho ang mga tao, tapos magkaroon ng training. Kung walang foreign direct investments, hindi magkakaroon ng ganyan. So, pumasok ang foreign investor, magkakaroon ng kailangan ng canteen dun sa loob ng kumpanya, 'di ba? Magkakaroon ng factory. Pag nag-factory diyan, magkakaroon ng canteen sa loob. Mangangailangan din sila ng shuttle bus services. So, syempre, sino yung may-ari ng shuttle bus services? Pilipino, 'di ba? Magkakaroon din ng kailangan nila ng security guard, yung kailangan nila mag-hire ng security agency. Sino may-ari ng security agency? Pilipino, 'di ba?
Example na lang, Orion, yung ating yung inaapi nilang mga pogo dito sa Pilipinas na pumasok sa atin. Sinasabi nila yung mga Chinese lang daw na ikinabang doon dahil kasi karamihan doon ay mga Chinese workers. Pero yung kumbaga the economy also benefits because all these
actually it
who
did
are
benefit.
living here, they are renting units,
They are renting.
units. They are buying stuff from the convenience stores
Yes.
within their, diba, their communities. At nag-iikot yan, kumakain rin sa labas. At ang sino ang kumikita? Siyempre, mga Filipino businessmen na customers to mga Chinese na to. Sabihin nila, paano mga pinupuntahan, kinakainan naman nila, puro mga Chinese restaurants rin. Pero
hindi, kumakain din sila sa mga Jollibee at Chowking, which is not naman, okay, Filipino-Chinese ang may-ari, pero Filipino.
Nagko-commute naman yung mga yan, sumasakay rin ng taxi. At nagbabayad ng taxes rin yung mga yan. Diba? So, hindi talaga
nagsasakay ng Uber. I remember one time, I don't know if you, so we didn't know each other yet back then, no? Pero 2018, I think it was 2018, I attended a dinner with the Federalism Study Group guys, no? So there was this, it was in this Alba restaurant in SM SM, what's the name of that? MOA pala, MOA, sa may MOA area. Okay? So nandun si Senator Coco, nandiyan si Asik Malaya, nandiyan yung grupo na yan, no? I was there too. And so we had a discussion, and then afterwards, when it was time to go home, I took an Uber. But when I took an Uber, I took one of those para mas mura, yung parang may kasama ka, 'di ba? Yung parang hitch ba yun?
Parang yung he'll pick up the first
yeah. Diba? Yun. So yung kasakay ko, 'di ba? Yung kasakay ko, 'di ba? Yung kasakay ko, 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 yung kas ano sila, couple sila na Chinese. Na ano, so nakausap ko sila, mamandarin ko sila na ano, ganyan. Tapos, yun pala,
Galing.
yun. So, yeah, kasakay ko. Siyempre,
Carpool.
Pilipino yung driver, siyempre. Oh, kausap ko sa driver, ako yung nasa tabi ng driver, sa likod, yung dalawang ano, taga mainland. So, I think taga Pogo siguro nagtatrabaho yun or something. But anyway, my point is, yung nagsumakay sila ng Uber or ng Grab pala nung time na yun, ano, kumita yung driver. 'Di ba? Parang kumbaga may umiikot pa rin na pera sa ekonomiya dahil doon.
Mm.
Maraming Pilipino ang problema kasi I'm sorry to say, baryotic talaga, walang kaalam-alam about how economics works. Ay, masama yan, masama ganito. Ay, naku, ayan na naman tayo. Pero sa Singapore, mag-isip yung taga Singapore, iisipin lagi na Singapore, kung pwede ang isang kumpanya, kahit na lahat ay foreigner yung mga tao, idala pa rin sa Singapore, gagawin niya yon. Kasi
Di kasi
para sa
Orion,
kanila, point of view
i-
ng Singapore, papasukin mo yung mga yan, magko-contribute yan sa ekonomiya.
mas the
Yan.
best way to explain it kasi Orion, para ma-simplify natin sa ating mga kababayan na ang kanilang level of comprehension ay medyo at a certain level lang, ay dapat explain natin ano yung mga specific economic activities that can affect uh, a country's growth. For example, yung Chinese na nagtatrabaho sa isang pogo, pupunta ng 7-Eleven, bibili ng chippy. Yung ibabayad niya sa chippy, mapupunta sa economy. And that's, yung anong transaction na yan, that's gonna help. That's one economic activity that's happening in a very small scale. And then if you multiply that by the thousands of pogo workers who are working here, and imagine if foreign investment came in, obviously they're gonna employ thousands and thousands of Filipinos who will also earn from daily wages, and they'll have enough money to go to your nearest sari-sari store, to your mambabalot, to your kind of, they can afford to have their shoes fixed sa Mr. Quickie. And those are parang cumulative effect yan, Orion, di ba? Itong mga
Exactly. Yeah.
economic activities na yan, as a whole, it's gonna generate more activity for the country in that
Tumutulong sa
sense.
lahat. Oo, tumutulong sa lahat. So, pero yan ang hindi naiintindihan ng maraming mga tao, lalo na yung mga komunista. In fact, pati si Munsod na dapat, si Munsod married to an economist daw, pareho silang hindi nakakaintindi. Kukontra-kontra sila sa mga reforma kailangan ng Pilipinas. Kaya nga, ang punto ko, nandun na sa point na sinabi ko, buti nga magpasalamat yung mga Munsod na yan na wala tayo sa panahon ng Age of Samurai. Kasi sa Age of Samurai, kung panoorin nyo yan sa
Netflix.
Netflix, po, tangin na yung si Oda Nobunaga, pinugutan niya na lahat ng ulo ng mga kumukontra sa kanya.
Pero grabe,
Pinugutan
Orion,
niya na talaga, putang ina.
pero Orion, grabe pinagdaanan ng mga Hapon, no? I mean, 150 years of war. I can't imagine us going through something like that. That's definitely going to break, our society down. Talaga. Um, I don't think we can survive something like that. Like 150 years of war, of uncertainty. Medyo mahirap yun. Buti nga hindi tayo umabot pa sa ganun, Orion. Yung silver lining na.
Magpasalamat yung mga Munsod na yan at yung mga ibang mga kumukontra sa reforma na wala tayo dun sa age of ano. Kasi actually, ang mangyayari dyan, kung merong isang parang reformist talaga na gusto talagang ayusin, pero style ng mga samurai, pugot lahat ng ulo ng mga kumukontra na yan.
Mm.
Pugot lahat yan. Torture pa.
Mm.
Torture muna para makita ng lahat. Ito yung kapag kukontra kayo sa mga reforma. Kumbaga, ito yung reforma kailangan para gumanda ang buhay ng lahat ng mga tao. Para yung mga mahihirap, umangat din ang buhay. Tapos kumukontra yung mga yan. Ay, torture yan. Putang inang mga yan. Yun ang mangyayari sa kanila. Actually,
Tama.
yung dapat mangyari sa mga Munsod na yan at saka sa mga putang ng mga komunistang yan, yung dapat, matagal na dapat ginawa yan sa kanila para hindi tularan Tangina yung UP na dapat binomba na yan dati pa Tanginang UP na yan. Actually,
marami pa rin naman tayong mga mababait na kaibigan from UP. Kukunti lang naman.
Yeah. But still, unfortunately.
Kukunti lang yung mga bobo dyan.
Actually, unfortunately talaga, ang dami talagang, nasira talaga yung institusyon. Para bang kailangan mo siyang ayusin ulit na parang, kailangan mo talaga i-purge yung foundations ng lugar na kasi talagang sirang-sira na Ang dami talaga. A lot of the people there.
Sabi nga nila Orion if you people who are smart stand out, idiots do as well. Diba? Kaya, diba, it works both ways. I mean, you will get noticed whether you're smart or you're stupid. It's the same thing. Sabi ni Kenneth Adrian Funelas, only in HOR are in the process of economic chacha final reading on RBH2 kanina. Actually, good news po sa ating mga proponents for constitutional reform. According to Congressman Garbin, he was interviewed recently and he says that there's a big chance this March they will approve the resolution or the uh, on its final reading daw ang RBH2. So that's good news, Orion. So ang malaking hadlang na lang dyan is the Senate. But it's nice to hear also the Senate President Tito Soto saying that the only amendment that can pass the Senate is an economic, amendment,
Constitutional reform. Yeah.
constitutional reform on economic provision. So malaki talaga yung pag-asa, guys. Hindi talaga tapos tsaka mukhang it could happen this year because this is the only time that we can do it. So Orion, medyo relax ka lang dun sa yung parang kulang yung chippy to sort of
Hindi kasi yun na nga, may kaibigan ako, close akong kaibigan. Yung this friend of mine is the guy who created he's the guy who created the Duterte anime. He's the guy who made that. Siya talagang gumawa niyan. Okay.
It's always sad to hear friends of
but
ours.
He's leaving and they're going to be basically yung trajectory ng buhay nila ng mag-asawa pupunta sila sa Canada para syempre mag-migrate doon. Kasi ayaw na nila. Nag-uusap kami, kaya nga hindi ako Ron sa Futbolero last Friday kasi nag-inuman kami ng mga kaibigan ko.
Despedida kayo.
And nag-uusap kami, nag-despedida. At yung napag-usapan nga namin, yung parang ayaw na namin na yung pag nagkaanak na kami, uulit na naman siya sa cycle na mag-OFW, yung mga ganyan. Kasi hindi na talaga naayos eh. Sabi nga niya, kahit nga magawa natin to ngayon, ang tagal-tagal pa ng effects bago mangyari, bago natin makita. It's going to be another 30 years. And I don't have that time. I want to enjoy my life na rin. So, I want my kids to have a good life. And that's the same thing with me. I'm basically, I've reached this point na suntok sa langit na itong ginagawa kong ng mga reforma eh. Pero at some point, iisipin ko talaga, para sa next generation na, para maganda yung buhay, gagawin ko na yung gagawin ko para sa next generation. I'm sorry to say, pero ganun lang talaga. Hindi naman ako galing sa mayaman na pamilya eh. Buti sana kung oligarch din ako. Hindi eh. Kung oligarch ako pwedeng-pwede kasi mayaman eh. Pero hindi eh. Ordinaryong tao na sariling sikap ako na OFW eh.
Alam mo, diba? Ryan, paminsan natatawa ako sa iyong outburst paminsan, but I really understand your frustration. No? Kasi, I mean, ang Pilipino talaga, masyado tayong pasensyoso. Madali tayong, we're very passive when it comes to, things, when we get maltreated.
Masyado tayong bahala na. Bahala na si God. Bahala si Batman.
When there are abuses committed, we tend to look the other way. Hindi tayo
turn the other cheek. Fight back, man.
Yeah, so I get I get your frustration. I get the talagang.
You know why I'm like this? Because I'm an avid student of history, and I see all other societies where the people basically fight back. Everyone fights back. Pero putang Pinoy lang yung okay lang yan, sige, makakarma din yan. Parang, hindi mangyayari yung karma. You make the karma yourself for that fucker who's fucking you up. That's how it works. The Monsods, hindi sila makakarma. We need to karma them. That's how it works. Fucking dick matters in our hands, guys. Hindi yung, makakarma lang yan, yung mga gagong yan, makakarma lang yan. No! Make it happen. We need to make it happen. Putang ina.
Yung evolution ng Filipino personality, talagang it has to dapat magano na talagang we need to level up. Kasi
alam mo bakit ako ganito? Yung para yung dugo ko kasi may lahi ako Lebanese eh. May lahi akong Arabo eh. So
Hindi
yung
umuubra sa
siyempre,
iyo yung pagiging subservient ng
wala
Pilipino.
po, tangina.
Hindi hindi na hindi,
May halo akong Arabo kaya nga ganito yung mukha ko eh. May
hindi
halo
po
akong Arabo.
hindi po pwede. Before we end the program, Orion, kasi meron na tayo, nag-usap kami ni Orion na dapat siguro 1 hour lang yung programa natin para
Yun
sulit.
nga.
But before we end that, of course, you want to acknowledge all our viewers tonight. Si Jaime Hernandez, sabi niya yung mga obstructionist daw ay nasa Senate. Si Adrian Tepes, sumabay lang sa bayo. Sarap sa pakiramdam, pamparam, pam, pam. Sabi ni Adrian. And thank you also pala kay tawag nito si Adrian naman si ito Orion, sino nga to? Ang OFW daw ang modernong bayani ngayon, pero they did not
Maria
listen to our
Teresa
ideas.
Lopez.
Maria Teresa
Maria
Lopez,
Teresa Lopez.
yon, to our ideas para makaahon ng mabilis ang Pilipinas. Hindi naman po siguro yung mga OFWs out of need na, that they decided to go abroad to work because they need to support their families, and they had the talent, or they have the talent to actually go out the country. They were hired by these foreign employers. That only goes to show that Filipinos are very talented. That's why we have so many OFWs like Orion, for example, who's working in Singapore. Yung nagkaroon na tayo ng tinatawag na brain drain phenomenon here in the Philippines. Kaya nga, nakakatuwa rin Orion when you hear certain OFWs that want to come back, lalong-lalo na with this administration, seeing all these projects, no? Yung lumabas nga yung ating subway project, may mga engineers from the Middle East saying na, gusto kong maano dyan, maging part niyan. Gusto kong tumulong sa Pilipinas kasi experience na ginagawa namin dito yan sa abroad. So that's also cool. Si Carlo Realiza, salamat. Si Lawrence Chua, of course, the usual suspects, yung chairman ng Senate Committee on Constitutional Amendments mismo, kontra. Let's see how that transpires, no? I'm sure hindi ako magtataka kung meron na silang mga strategiya or strategies, Orion, to counter the fast movement of and the support that the constitutional amendments are gaining now in Congress. They want to, I'm sure, dampen the expectations, and they want to, pop our balloons when it comes to constitutional reform. Kasi
Simple lang mga kababayan. Kailangan natin lumaban. Lumaban talaga. Kahit man lang sa internet. Yung mga, kunyari, Manny Piñol, kontra sa ano. Yan, labanan nyo. Pakita nyo sa kanya na galit kayo sa mga taong hindi nakakaalam sa katotohanan ng kung paano umuunlad ang maraming mga bansang mga nasa Asia na gumagamit ng pagiging bukas sa foreign direct investors. Kasi nga, laging ginagamit ng mga ugok at tanga at mga baryotic na yung Japan kasi at saka South Korea, pero yung mga bansang yan, kaya nga lang nila nagawa yan dahil may marami silang domestic savings at may marami silang mga local businessmen na mahilig mag-aral ng mga engineering at saka yung mga paano gumawa ng manufacturing at saka industrialization. Pero sa mga Singapore, sa Malaysia, sa ibang mga bansa, sa Pilipinas, wala tayong ganun eh. During that time, 1960s, even Lee Kuan Yew himself said, the problem that we had in Singapore is we did not have a large number of people with a large enough savings to create industrial jobs because they did not even have the know-how for that. They only preferred to go into buy and sell. Ganun lang, buy and sell lang sila. Pati sa Pilipinas, puro buy and sell lang. Pero at least sa Japan and South Korea, marami silang mga nag-aral talaga ng mga engineering, paano gumawa yung mga pabrika na automated, mga ganyan-ganyan. Marami silang mga taong technical na may maraming pera. Sa Pilipinas, may ganyan ba tayo? Konti? Wala eh. Halos wala eh.
Or kung meron man ay malabas na sa ibang bansa. Kaya nga, kinakailangan talaga pag merong mga kagaya ni Manny Piñol na salungat sa ating mga opinion, ay engage po natin ng proper discussion, no? Lalong-lalo na if they have so much engagement from their social media feed. you can always like, Sir Manny, sa tingin ko ganito po yung yung advantage pag binago natin ang konstitusyon. So maganda to engage them in a healthy discussion.
They were engaged. They were engaged like that. So that's always a start. Maganda yung pagkasalita sa kanila. It's always like that. 3 weeks before before sila na nasabihan na sila ng ganito, sir, ganito. Pero kontra pa rin ng kontra eh. Ayaw makinig eh. Matigas ang ulo eh.
Dyan na
Diba?
tayo,
Yun yung point. And now, and my point is, wala na tayong oras. We don't have time anymore to be soft and nice to these people who are kontra ng kontra because we only have 1 year of Duterte left. We need
That's
to get the reform done. So we don't have time anymore for pa-cute, nice. Oh, sir, okay lang yan, sir. No! When they say something wrong, fight them. That's the way it works. We don't have the time. We don't have all the time in the world. Buti sana kung we still have like 20 years to go before we need to do it. Okay lang, sige. Bagal-bagalan yung pagkasabi. Right now, namamadali na tayo eh. So what we need to do is to stop the wrong info. Kapag may nagkakalat ng wrong info, stop it. Tell them off. Tell them that they're wrong para wala nang madala. Wala nang
hanapin natin yung mga bukas pa yung isip, yung hindi pa talaga nakakaintindi sa importansya ng pag-amenda ng konstitusyon. Maharlikain says, Yorme ng Manila, anti-reform, anti-chacha, paglaban muna raw sa pandemya ang pag-usapan, kaso we need FDI, lalo na ngayong may health crisis. Ang ano dyan, Orion, ang problema lang sometimes sa ating mga politicians because they're very good when it comes to lip service. They make it appear that government is one-dimensional, na you can only do one thing
at the same time. At one time.
At one time na hindi talaga pwedeng sabay-sabay. Multifaceted naman nating gobyerno.
I'll tell everyone, how did I become good at different languages? How did I beef up my Spanish? How did I beef up my French? How did I beef up my Mandarin? When I was stuck in traffic back in the Philippines, I played language tapes the whole time. That's what I did. I played it paulit-ulit. Even until now, I do this all the time when I'm stuck and riding a train or basta, tapos habang nagpa-plancha, nakikinig ka ng language tapes again. Tapos so you're doing something at the same time while listening. Multitasking. Simple lang. Nadadala ako sa traffic dati, ganyan, pero nahahasa yung yung Kastila ko, nahahasa yung French ko na kasi nakikinig ako ng mga ganyang tapes. Yan, dahil sa practice, ngayon pag magsalita ako, para akong lokal, para akong Kastila. Akala ng mga Kastila ako. Akala ng mga French ako. Akala ng mga incheck ako. Ganon.
Kaya hindi natin maintindihan kung bakit nilang ini-insist na unahin mo na kung ano yung unahin. Na hindi naman kailangan unahin. Pwede naman
sabayin eh. Meron naman pwedeng sabayin eh, di ba? Yun nga. Ako yan akin. Kapag ikaw ay nagmamaneho, pwede ka naman nakikinig sa radyo or sa CD or yung, di ba, meron kang, you're able to listen to your language tapes or language recordings. You're able to, practice listening to the foreign language that you're learning while you're doing household chores. There's certain things that you can do at the same time. The same thing here. We can open up to foreign direct investors at the same time while we're doing this whole vaccination thing. Hindi maintindihan ng mga ibang tao dyan eh.
Kirby Albais, yung sagot sa question mo, pwede ba sa opinion nyo na i-postpone yung election para sa referendum? Actually, isasabay yun, Kirby.
Isasabay siya.
It's gonna happen at the same time. Bale, parang election sa Amerika, Orion, di ba? They vote for their congressmen, their mayor, their governors, and merong proposition at the end of their ballot kung paano ba sila, sangayon ba sila sa proposition, say, 409. Parang ganun. Tapos,
sinasabay nila. Yes.
Sinasabay nila yung referendum na yan. So, pwede pong isabay, hindi po added gastos yun. Huwag kayong mag-alala.
Kumbaga, ira-ride on mo. Pero teka lang, nagano na naman yung echo. Naririnig ko na naman yung echo. May problema yata yung settings mo, pre.
Go ahead.
Naririnig ko. Meron pa rin. Okay. O, yan yung sinasabi ko kanina. Sabi ko, anyway, pwede mong i-ride on, yung kumbaga, i-ride on mo yung referendum or yung plebiscite question dun sa normal na election para walang dagdag gastos. Ganun lang kasimple. Parang piggyback. Piggyback lang tawag dyan. Umaangkas.
Sabi ni Daryl Bersabal, dapat debatihin yung mga obstructionists kung matalo sila, magsepoku sila.
Ayun.
Yeah,
Kita isa sa mga kaibigan nating nanood niya ng ano ng Age of Samurai eh.
Age
Ha?
of Samurai.
Ganun dapat. Ang yung mga
Pero
talo,
very
'di ba?
grabe, no? Grabe, Orion, no? Ang iba talaga ang ang mentality ng Hapon. It's do or die. 'Di ba? Ganun sila yung there's no tomorrow if you can't do the job. Parang wala tayong sense of urgency sa ating kultura. Parang, sige lang, okay lang yan, pwede na yan. Yan ang parati ko nirereklamo, Ryan, yung pwede na yan na line na parating sinasabi ng Pilipino. Ay, okay lang yan. Sige na nga, ganyan talaga eh. Wala
Sakit
tayong magagawa.
sakit sakit 'yan ng tropical country. Kasi pati marami ibang tropical country ganyan din. Pati sa Latin America, pati sa Malaysia, ganun din sila. So yung
Mm.
mga bansa na ganyan, kinakailangan talaga ng foreign direct investment. Kasi you unfortunately cannot easily have domestic investments or huge domestic industrialization coming from those kinds of countries na yung mga tao, majority ng mga tao ay bahala na, ay okay lang yan, bukas na lang, manyana habit yung
Mm.
dating ng kultura. Pero sa mga malalamig na bansa, tulad ng Japan at South Korea, yung mga malalamig na bansa, kaya nila yung ganyan. Kasi yung mga tao, forward-looking. Kasi pag sa mga bansang yan, may winter na sobrang lamig, kapag hindi ka nag-save ng firewood, kung wala kang tinatag na magandang bahay, yung bahay na may magandang insulation, wala kang mga damit, pagdating ng winter, patay ka. Wala kang stored na food, patay ka. 'Di ba? Pero sa atin, sa tropical countries, kahit nakahubad ka, hindi ka mamamatay. Basta't meron ka lang basta hindi ka lang mababasa sa ulan, meron kang mapupuntahan na hindi ka mababasa sa ulan, okay ka kahit hubad ka, hindi ka mamamatay. Meron naman laging pagkain na pwede kang pipitasin na na prutas diyan eh. O prutas dito, may hayop diyan, pwede mong patayin na, lutuin mo, kainin mo, ganyan. Pero sa mga malalamig na bansa, walang ganyan. Pag hindi mo plinaplano ang kailangan mong gawin, mamamatay ka. And yung pagpaplano na yan, yung mentality ng pagpaplano, which is hinuhubog ng lamig, ng winter, ng sense na meron kang 4 seasons na kinakailangan mong tansyahin yung oras, pag may ganyan ka, diyan ka nagkakaroon ng maraming mga taong nagiging businessman, magiging mga magagaling sa pagpaplano. Whereas pag sa mga maiinit na bansa, maraming mga happy-go-lucky, okay lang, pwede na yan, bukas na lang yan. Yan ang nangyayari.
Kaya kayo, bagong tuluyang lumamig yung ating kampanya para sa pag-amyenda ng Constitution, ay lawakan po natin yung ating network no, na tinatawag, yung sphere of influence natin. Each person kasi, especially the viewers of Istoryang Futbolero, the reason why you're taking so much, you're spending so much time listening to Orion and me talking about constitutional reform because it is something that you understand. And the only way for us to increase our numbers is for you to explain and find a way to relate this information, this knowledge to other people that you're surrounded with. Kagaya ng mga inyong mga pamilya, inyong mga kaibigan, inyong mga acquaintances, at hindi natatapos yung laban natin, Orion, di ba? Tuloy-tuloy ito kasi hindi pa nga, wala pang kasiguraduhan. Things are still up in the air. Well, there's good news that chances of Congress approving this resolution is very high, but we still have the Senate. And guess what? Alam nyo, napansin ko rin, I don't know if you notice this, that the smallest thing, once it goes viral on social media, it reaches even the president.
Yeah.
That's Kaya nga si Jam Magno got a chance to meet the president because what she's been doing on social media eventually led to that content reaching the president. And
Mm.
she was recognized for her efforts, lalong-lalo na for the LCAC campaign ng government. Can you imagine if this biglang magkaroon ng tinatawag natin Orion na which we are trying our best to reach is yung tinatawag na critical mass. Paano umabot sa critical mass ang conversation about constitutional amendments? Tinatry na ng ating mga proponents of constitutional reform sa Congress to get it done. All they need is our support and the noise coming from from the public supporting these amendments. Kasi alam mo, gaya ng like we discussed before, Orion, our lawmakers will not move an inch unless they recognize huge mass support for what they're trying to push for. So, alam mo naman yung mga yan, gusto nilang they want to stay in power, and the only way they can stay in power is if they are able to, get the support of the masses.
Okay. O, sige.
Okay, bye. mali ang spelling, bye. Mali ang spelling sa iyong pangalan.
Oo.
Sige, bye.
Sige, ayun lang.
Before we end, might as well change that by kay na naman ta dire.
Sa'yo.
Let me nasa'yo pang spelling sa iyong last name. Time's up. Okay.
Walay kapital dito nga kapitalon man.
Abot nga na unsa kanang bad habit of capitalizing letters that are not supposed to be capitalized. Tapa. Na stylize man goodbye. That's why.
Sayop mo na kay. That's a Visayan word.
Mao. Hinumdum. Dumdum.
Oo, na siya. Sa Ilonggo pa is actually originally Ilonggo. Ang original niya nga kuan. Ilonggo yun na siya originally.
There you go. So Orion, how can people learn more about constitutional amendments or
Well, go to the correctphilippines.org website. Okay, go to the correctphilippines.org website. Also follow my page Orion Perez D. Also go to Correct Movement FB page, and again the website correctphilippines.org.
Maganda tong suggestion ni Orion, sabi ni Adrian Tepes. Boss, maganda kahit hindi matagal yung conversation, tapos maganda may tanungan portion. Adrian, don't worry, next time we will follow your advice. We will be more concise with our conversation. We'll be more straight to the point, and then we'll ask for people to ask Orion questions. I'm sure, Orion, may mga questions na gustong tanungin ng ating mga viewers.
Kanina may nagtatanong, ano yung mga ginawa ng mga monsod. Number one, ang mga monsod, puro sila nagkakalat ng fake news. Fake news ng fake news. Yung mga, kunyari, yung federalism will worsen warlords and dynasties. Kanila yun galing. Federalism will mean higher taxes. Kanila na naman yun. Lahat ng mga narinig yung mga kabalbalan na sinasabi about federalism will ano yan, galing sa mga monsod yan. Yung sinasabi nila ng yung ibang bansa naman sa ASEAN, hindi naman maliit lang naman yung percentage ng FDI sa kanilang mga ekonomiya. Stupid. Yung 'di ba? Stupid talaga eh. Kasi yun nga, kunyari, dun sa Santa Rosa may Coca-Cola dyan, di ba? Pero yung Coca-Cola na yan, pag tinignan mo yung buong hindi siya lang yung reason kung bakit may, dun sa the area where Coke is Pero it's not all just because of Coke. Hindi siya 90%. But there are many areas there na ang kanilang business dahil dun sa mga taong nagtatrabaho sa Coke. Pag tinanggal mo yung Coke, mawawala yung mga business na yan. Pero yung mga business na yan naman nandyan lahat, nakasurround sa kanya, they amount to more than what Coke is. So siguro 30% lang ang Coke. Siguro sa 70% sila lahat. Pero pag tinanggal mo yung Coke, na wala yung Coca-Cola bottlers yan dyan sa lugar na yan, wala yan. Wala lahat yung mga karinderya na yan, mga restaurant yan, mawawala lahat yan. Ganun kasimple yun. Yung mga mall na nandiyan sa lugar na yan, wawala yan.
Tsaka pag inisip mo, Orion, marami sa ating mga employers or corporations that employ thousands of Filipinos are owned by foreign entities.
Yeah, yeah.
Imagine if it were more favorable for them to invest here. Yung iba na hindi pa natin natatap, di mas maganda sana yun para sa ating bansa kung if we're able to do that. So next time we'll definitely take more questions on about constitutional amendments. Orion, baka sa gusto ko lang sabihin sa ating mga viewers, Orion, na baka maging semi-regular guest rin natin si Attorney Glenn Chong.
Good.
Ito naman, we'll have a program that tackles your civil rights. Yung inyong yung dapat alamin natin yung batas, matututunan natin lahat 'yan kay Attorney Glenn Chong. So in case na meron tayong mga encounters or situations that require a little bit of knowledge on Philippine laws, yun tamang-tama andyan si Attorney Glenn Chong. He will help us out. He will give you advice, and definitely that's something that you should look forward to. Kasi merong pending case right now sa Boracay. We'll tell you more about that when we come back with him. And not only that, Orion, sa Friday, baka nandito si Franco Mabanta.
Okay.
Sa Istoryang Futbolero. So,
Okay.
ayun. So, sleeping time, guys. Si Orion, maaga pa bukas. Ako rin. Kailangan ko pumunta ng Batasan bukas uli. At balitaan ko na lang kayo, no? Kasi pag nasa Batasan tayo, meron tayong nilulutong programa na tinatawag na pulong-pulong sa Batasan, na baka we're gonna also ask people to join, and we'll get a chance probably, Orion, to talk to our lawmakers as well. If that happens, that should be very, very interesting as well. Baka we're gonna also ask people to join. We'll get a chance.
Okay.
All right, guys, thank you so much. Yung mga nanood, maraming salamat po ating mga OFWs, mga bagong bayani natin, ay mag-ingat po tayo. Salamat po sa inyong kagitingan, sa inyong sakripisyo para sa ating mga pamilya dito sa Pilipinas. And also good news, nandito na po yung vaccine. Huwag tayong matakot sa bakuna. Nagsisimula na po. This is the start for our long road to recovery. At this definitely give us more optimism about the future. Ayun.
Okay.
Bye. Good night, bye. Maraming
Good night,
salamat.
bye.
And you guys have a good one. Enjoy the rest of the week. Till then,
All right.
this is
Okay, bye.
Futbolero with Ron Poblete and Orion. Bye. Good night. See you.
Bye. Good night, everyone.